Carl Jung never actually used the term INFJ. The INFJ personality type didn't exist during his lifetime. It was created decades later through the Myers-Briggs type indicator, which was heavily inspired by Jung's psychological theories. But here's where it gets interesting. When Jung described the introverted intuitive personality with a highly developed feeling function, he was describing a psychological pattern that closely resembles what we now call the INFJ. And if Jung was right, it explains something that has puzzled many INFJs for years. Why do so many INFJs feel like they're behind everyone else in their 20s and even their 30s, only to suddenly find their footing and achieve remarkable success later in life? According to Jung's theories, this isn't a flaw. It isn't bad luck. And it certainly isn't because INFJs lack talent. In fact, the very traits that seem to slow INFJs down early in life may be the same traits that eventually set them apart. In this video, we will explore what Jung's psychology reveals about why many INFJs don't peak early in life, and why what looks like a delay may actually be a different path to success altogether. If you want to truly understand yourself as an INFJ, the INFJ Mastery will help you gain the clarity, direction, and self-understanding you've been searching for. Check the link in the video description. One of Jung's central observations was that certain individuals are not designed for rapid adaptation to the demands of the external world. Their psychological energy is directed inward before it is directed outward. They spend years attempting to understand patterns, meanings, symbols, motives, and hidden connections that other people overlook. While this inward orientation can eventually become a tremendous strength, it often creates delays in worldly achievement. The INFJ is not naturally focused on immediate results. Jung observed that intuitive introverts are drawn toward possibilities, future developments, and underlying realities rather than present circumstances. As children and young adults, they often feel disconnected from the practical concerns that dominate society. While their peers are focused on status, competition, popularity, financial advancement, or social positioning, the intuitive introvert is frequently occupied with questions of meaning. This creates a significant disadvantage during the first half of life. Society tends to reward visible action. It rewards people who know exactly what they want and pursue it aggressively. It rewards individuals who can quickly adapt to external expectations. The intuitive introvert often struggles in these environments because their attention is directed toward understanding before acting. They need to perceive the deeper significance of things before committing themselves. As a result, they may appear slow to launch. They may spend years exploring different interests, questioning their direction, or searching for work that feels psychologically meaningful. Others may interpret this as indecisiveness, but Jung would likely view it differently. He believed that some personalities are engaged in a deeper developmental process that cannot be rushed without psychological consequences. For Jung, the central task of life was not achievement. It was individuation. Individuation refers to the process of becoming one's true self. It is the lifelong journey of integrating unconscious aspects of the personality and developing into a complete individual rather than merely fulfilling social expectations. This concept is crucial for understanding why INFJs often bloom later in life. Many people achieve social success relatively early because they adapt effectively to collective values. They learn what society rewards and pursue it. Jung did not necessarily regard this as genuine development. He believed a person could become highly successful while remaining psychologically undeveloped. The intuitive introvert faces a different challenge. Such individuals often find it difficult to betray their inner nature. They may attempt to conform, but prolonged conformity usually creates dissatisfaction, emotional exhaustion, or a sense of inner fragmentation. Their psyche continually pushes them toward authenticity. Consequently, they spend much of early adulthood wrestling with questions that others postpone indefinitely. Who am I beneath my roles? What am I actually meant to contribute? What values genuinely belong to me? What is the deeper purpose of my existence? These questions rarely produce quick rewards. They require years of introspection and psychological development. Yet the answers eventually become a powerful foundation for later achievement. Jung believed that the unconscious mind contains wisdom that unfolds gradually over time. The introverted intuitive personality is particularly sensitive to these unconscious processes. They often perceive patterns long before they can explain them rationally. They may sense future possibilities that are invisible to others. However, translating these insights into practical reality requires maturity. In youth, their intuition is often stronger than their ability to implement what they perceive. They may have profound insights, but lack confidence. They may recognize opportunities, but hesitate to pursue them. They may understand human nature deeply, but struggle to navigate institutional systems. Over time, however, this imbalance begins to change. As experience accumulates, the individual develops greater mastery over the external world. Their intuition remains intact, but it becomes supported by practical competence, emotional resilience, and wisdom gained through failure. This combination is extraordinarily powerful. Jung frequently emphasized that the second half of life differs fundamentally from a first. According to him, the goals that dominate youth are not the goals that dominate maturity. The first half of life is often devoted to building an identity, establishing a career, and finding a place in society. The second half of life focuses on integration, meaning, and psychological wholeness. This shift benefits INFJs enormously. Many people encounter a crisis when they enter the second half of life, because the strategies that once brought success no longer provide fulfillment. The pursuit of status, wealth, or recognition begins to feel empty. Questions of purpose become unavoidable. The INFJ, however, has often been wrestling with these questions for decades. The issues that others encounter at 40 or 50 may have occupied the INFJ's mind since adolescence. As a result, when society begins moving toward the concerns that have always interested them, they possess a significant advantage. Their lifelong exploration of meaning suddenly becomes relevant. Jung also believed that psychological depth increases with age. Certain forms of intelligence cannot be acquired quickly. Wisdom develops through confrontation with suffering, uncertainty, disappointment, and contradiction. The intuitive introvert often experiences these confrontations intensely. They tend to reflect deeply on painful experiences rather than merely moving past them. They seek understanding instead of avoidance. They attempt to extract meaning from adversity. This process is rarely pleasant, but it contributes to profound psychological growth. Years later, they often possess an unusual ability to guide, teach, counsel, inspire, or lead others through complex situations. The very struggles that delayed their progress become sources of strength. Another reason Jung might associate later success with INFJs involves their relationship with the unconscious. Jung regarded the unconscious not merely as a repository of forgotten memories, but as a creative and transformative force. He believed that individuals who learn to engage with their unconscious minds gain access to extraordinary insights. The intuitive introvert is naturally inclined toward this engagement. Dreams, symbols, intuitions, recurring themes, and subtle psychological patterns often capture their attention. While others may dismiss these phenomena, the intuitive introvert frequently treats them as meaningful. Over decades, this creates a rich internal reservoir of understanding. Many of their greatest insights emerge gradually rather than suddenly. What appears to outsiders as overnight success is often the visible culmination of years of invisible psychological work. This pattern appears repeatedly in creative fields, counseling professions, leadership roles, spiritual pursuits, and intellectual endeavors. The individual spends years developing internally before external recognition arrives. Jung would likely argue that such development is not a weakness but a necessity. The tree that grows slowly often develops deeper roots. Another important factor is that INFJs are often motivated by significance rather than immediate gratification. They are less likely to devote themselves wholeheartedly to goals that feel empty. This can make them appear unambitious when compared to more externally driven individuals. In reality, their standards for commitment are simply different. They seek alignment between their work and their values. They seek coherence between their outer life and inner convictions. Because finding this alignment can take years, progress may seem delayed. However, once alignment is achieved, their dedication often becomes remarkable. They're no longer working merely for rewards. They are working in service of a vision. Jung understood that people are capable of sustaining extraordinary effort when they perceive deep meaning in what they do. Meaning transforms persistence. Meaning transforms sacrifice. Meaning transforms obstacles into challenges worth overcoming. This is one reason why many INFJs appear to gain momentum later in life. Once they discover a purpose that resonates with their deepest values, they often demonstrate levels of commitment that surprise those who underestimated them. Perhaps the most Jungian explanation of all is that these individuals are often engaged in a long process of becoming rather than merely achieving. Achievement can occur quickly. Becoming cannot. Achievement may depend on circumstances, opportunity, talent, or timing. Becoming requires the gradual integration of the personality. Jung believed that genuine fulfillment emerges when a person becomes who they were meant to be. And for the INFJ, this process is rarely fast. It involves years of self-examination, internal conflict, growth, and refinement. Yet this very process often prepares them for forms of success that are more enduring, meaningful, and psychologically satisfying than success achieved solely through external ambition. If you want to truly understand yourself as an INFJ, the INFJ Mastery will help you gain the clarity, direction, and self-understanding you've been searching for. Check the link in the video description. There is another dimension of Jung's psychology that helps explain why INFJs frequently appear to reach their full potential later than others. Jung observed that some personalities possess an unusually strong relationship with what he called the collective unconscious. This does not mean they're psychic in a supernatural sense. Rather, it means they are highly attuned to universal human patterns, archetypes, and recurring themes that shape human behavior across cultures and generations. INFJs often spend years attempting to understand experiences that other people simply accept without question. They are fascinated by the hidden forces that influence human lives. They want to understand why people behave the way they do, why societies function as they do, and why certain struggles seem to repeat throughout history. This curiosity rarely produces immediate rewards. The marketplace generally rewards specialized knowledge, measurable skills, and tangible outcomes. The exploration of deep psychological realities is far more difficult to monetize, especially during youth. Yet over time, this accumulated understanding often becomes extraordinarily valuable. As the years pass, INFJs develop an increasingly sophisticated understanding of human nature. They become skilled at recognizing motivations beneath words, fears beneath aggression, and aspirations beneath outward behavior. They begin to perceive the larger narratives guiding individuals, organizations, and even entire communities. This capacity often matures slowly because human nature itself cannot be mastered through theory alone. It requires decades of observation. Jung frequently emphasized that wisdom differs from intelligence. Intelligence can be impressive in youth. Wisdom tends to emerge through experience. INFJs often accumulate wisdom gradually because they are constantly reflecting upon experience rather than merely passing through it. Every disappointment becomes a lesson. Every failure becomes a source of insight. Every relationship becomes an opportunity for deeper understanding. Over time, this reflective habit creates a level of psychological sophistication that younger individuals rarely possess. Another factor involves Jung's concept of the shadow. The shadow consists of the aspects of the personality that remain unconscious or rejected. According to Jung, one of the greatest challenges of psychological development is confronting these hidden aspects rather than pretending they do not exist. INFJs often face an especially demanding shadow journey. Because they are frequently idealistic, compassionate, and morally conscious, they may initially struggle to acknowledge their own anger, selfishness, ambition, competitiveness, resentment, or desire for power. These qualities do not disappear simply because they are ignored. They remain active beneath the surface. Jung warned repeatedly that unacknowledged aspects of the psyche eventually create problems. The individual may become passive when assertiveness is needed. They may become self-sacrificing to a destructive degree. They may tolerate unhealthy situations because they fear appearing selfish. They may avoid leadership because they are uncomfortable with authority. As the years pass, however, many INFJs begin the difficult work of integrating these shadow elements. They learn that strength is not cruelty. They learn that ambition is not corruption. They learn that boundaries are not selfishness. They learn that power can be exercised responsibly. This integration often transforms their effectiveness dramatically. The person who once hesitated to take action develops confidence. The person who once avoided difficult conversations learns to speak directly. The person who once feared authority becomes capable of leadership. From a Jungian perspective, this transformation is one of the reasons later life success becomes possible. The individual is no longer fighting against portions of their own psyche. They are operating with greater internal unity. Jung also believed that many people spend their early years constructing what he called the persona. The persona is the social mask presented to the world. It is necessary because every society requires individuals to perform certain roles. However, problems arise when people mistake the persona for their true identity. INFJs often experience profound discomfort when their persona becomes disconnected from their authentic self. They may spend years attempting to meet expectations imposed by family, institutions, culture, or society. Yet something within them continually resists complete identification with these external roles. This tension can delay conventional success. While others may pursue prestigious careers or socially approved paths without hesitation, INFJs often feel compelled to question whether those paths genuinely reflect who they are. The questioning process can be frustrating. It can produce uncertainty. It can create periods of apparent stagnation. Yet Jung believed such questioning was essential for authentic development. Eventually, many INFJs discover that the path expected of them is not the path intended for them. When this realization occurs, they often redirect their lives in ways that appear surprising to others but deeply meaningful to themselves. The result may be a delayed career breakthrough, a significant creative contribution, a meaningful vocation, or a form of leadership rooted in authenticity rather than conformity. Jung would likely regard such outcomes as signs of psychological maturation rather than mere career advancement. If you want to truly understand yourself as an INFJ, the INFJ Mastery will help you gain the clarity, direction, and self-understanding you've been searching for. Check the link in the video description.